Everyone's like afraid of their neighbor. Oh man, it's mental. I hate it here. I swear to God, it's just fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a clown world, man.
Yeah.
I don't say that lightly.
Like in places you would expect to be mega red states, like, you know, your Texas, your Georgia, your Alabama, your Tennessees, whatever, where these people feel that are the blue and the purple areas that I've talked about within those red states, these people feel so empowered to, like, just trample all over you and shit on you in public, you know, mask shame, you name it. I just told them to fuck off. Like, I'm like, the most dangerous thing to you right now is not COVID. Trust me. You know, and I'm just like, don't get in my face. And I'm not a jerk about it. I'm just like, I just walk around. I don't wear a mask, and nobody generally says anything. If they do, I'm not a jerk. I'll be like, fine, whatever. But normally, you know, on if it's a bad day, man, and these people come out and they're like, I'll be honest. I'm still wearing my Trump hat around town, you know, and like people give me looks. I don't care. I treat everybody the same way. I treat everybody kindly, but they treat you like shit. They treat us like shit, and we're the racists. We're the awful people. We're dumb. We're low IQ. We're uneducated, even though we have the degrees. It doesn't make sense.
You're a would-be insurrectionist. I feel like that's how they treat people.
It's like
just zero respect. There's just zero respect,
and then lack of nuance in people's perceptions. It's like it's very black or white, and I don't know, man.
Like imagine having COPD or severe asthma, right? You know, and someone comes up and says, "Put on your mask." Well, you know, I might not be able to fucking breathe the levels of oxygen I need, according to every reputable scientist. Yet those reputable scientists, like, or guidelines rather, like when in the United States we have OSHA. OSHA's been completely pushed out of the conversation. It's the CDC, the National Institute of Health, and they run everything.
Yeah, what's his name? Del Bigtree had he did this test on his show with his son, who was wearing a mask, and he got a CO2 detector.
Correct.
And he was putting it under the mask, and it was, you know, dangerous levels according to whatever regulations they have in place. And then he had two women on OSHA on the show, and they're saying, yeah, that's exactly how we would have done it. And to force someone to wear a mask for 6 or 8 hours a day is just against their policy. So everything we're doing now, post-COVID, is stuff that people were not doing beforehand.
That was my argument. I've gone through lawyers with this. I won't say where again. You know, I try to keep myself, you know, somewhat anonymous, but DM me or whatever. But you know, for the internet, I will say, you know, I've sent this over to lawyers saying we're treating people completely and totally just with this. I don't know how to explain it. It's just all or nothing mentality when OSHA says XYZ, XYZ. And, you know, we did get some places federally for like maybe 2 or 3 months with being able to get people to not be able to wear masks. And then they just threw OSHA out completely, and it was wear a mask, go to work, you know, oh, you have to work around COVID patients, but you have, you know, cancer or diabetes. Well, too bad, you know, wear a mask and get in there. And that's what it became.
Yeah, I think the CO2, constant CO2 exposure is actually making people fucking stupid. You know, seriously, one of the side effects of CO2 exposure is serious mental fog, and it's really, really bad for you.
It cuts off oxygen to your brain, and then it kills. It kills. It's like banging your head against the wall, right? It's if you bang it really hard, or if you cut oxygen off of it from the levels like you were talking about, like those OSHA folks are saying, if you're wearing a mask for a certain amount of hours, it cuts off enough oxygen to do that.
Yeah, and these people are wearing it all fucking day.
Bruh.
You know?
Yeah.
I've only been in one situation where I had to wear one for, you know, 5 to 6 hours straight without even really being able to remove it much, unless I put myself in a physically distanced area, and
Bro,
that was so bad.
I stick my nose at the top. It's like I'll wear it on my mouth, but it's not going over my nose, and I just breathe out of my nose. But
in Switzerland, I walk around my hostel, my hotels without masks, and I barely get said. Barely anyone says anything to me. It's a really calm place.
Yeah, I try to tell my friends that. I just say, if the majority of us who really feel this way, like similar to what Elon was saying in this little YouTube clip that you all sent, I love it, by the way. I'm not at risk, right? And I have loved ones who may be, but if I'm exposed, if I'm shedding the virus, I would show symptoms. It's the lack of coherent science is making my brain hurt, dude.
Oh yeah, seriously, man. Like, I highly think like this whole asymptomatic spread thing might just be complete bullshit, because the whole point of symptoms from a respiratory virus is to make you shed the virus. That's why you sneeze. That's why you cough. All this kinds of other stuff. Without symptoms, virus spread is much reduced, and I have not seen so far anyone do like serious testing on this, probably because under ethical rules you wouldn't be able to do a thing where you get like a bunch of people who've tested positive and put them in a room with like a bunch of people who've tested negative, and but I mean even the testing regime is completely like fucked up. They're still using fucking PCR counts of like 45 or shit, and the day after Biden got elected, the WHO comes out and says, oh, yeah, by the way, don't use high cycle counts for PCR tests because they give inaccurate results. Gee, if only someone had known that. Like,
do you have a link for that? Because I've been telling that to professionals that work in the industry. I've been saying these PCR tests used in the United States mainly and the United Kingdom. That's why you see those rates so high. That's why y'all had the lockdowns. So I'm assuming you're UK. That's why you see the high case count in the United States. They're doing over 40 cycles. You should never even go over 36, 37.
Over 25.
Over 30 for some stuff. Like, actually, I've read stuff where they say like even over 25 is chancy. In France they use like 45. In the UK they use like 40. It's just insane.
Fauci himself has come out on this. So, like, if you have a link to if this is like come out post Biden by the WHO, like they've actually admitted this cycle thing.
Look up like WHO IVD or something or another. If my phone wasn't a brick,
it's from the 13th of January. I'll post it in the chat.
But WHO also came out. It was Maria Kerr, whatever her name is. She said explicitly that transmission by way of asymptomatic people is extremely rare. Her words. You can find that video. And
just found tons of information on this. Thank you. This is what I need to show to folks, because they've been. What's funny in the United States, if you test positive for COVID, even though it's this horrible thing, and the tests are so reliable, if you test positive for COVID, it's not enough to prove you even have a actual even sickness, illness, health condition, nothing.
Yeah, you could have had COVID, actually, legitimately had COVID, and then it could be months later, and then you still have some residual DNA, sequence or whatever, and you could test positive, and it's
the exomes or whatever that the doctor, whatever his name, has been talking about. One of the PCR test guys.
Yeah.
I listened to that, and somebody pushed back on me at some point saying, well, we can't take these antibody, whatever you want to say. We can't use these antibody tests as reliable. And I said, okay, well then the PCR and the rapid test, they shouldn't be reliable then.
It's just the visibility that gets me. I mean, I was traveling abroad at the time. I was in a big hostel, and and I wasn't seeing anybody with the flu, nobody getting sick. And then all of a sudden, bang, the whole country locked down and it was emergency mode. And were you seeing people dying, dropping, like, more deaths in your areas and stuff like that before it became really intense? It was just like a switch was pressed.
No, man. Actually, quite the opposite. I haven't been like sick once this winter, presumably because everyone's fucking wearing masks, washing their hands, and you can't meet up with anyone, so you can't even get a goddamn fucking cold. I mean, it's freaking insane. Like, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but like, flu has literally disappeared. Like, all of the flu tracking data, flu has just dropped to 0. Presumably, again, because masks and hand washing are actually and social distancing are very effective against the flu. But they're obviously not effective against coronavirus or whatever it is that people think is coronavirus. Like, I mean, I haven't even had a cold this winter, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, it's crazy. Flu's just disappeared.
The PIC statistic, they lump it all together and they call it coronavirus.
I would say my argument would be most people get the initial, I would call it the new flu, which is what they're calling COVID-19. It's just similar. It's cyclical. It's similar to like when we had the Spanish flu. Sorry, I'm by a road. We have the flu. It weakens your immune system. You come down on something, and then you get you get this mask on your face, right, or whatever it may be, and you're all around people and restaurants, and everything sticks to this mask. You get a bacterial infection. Well, you haven't been getting enough oxygen, so you develop pneumonia, and you die.
Yeah.
Or you get fucking massive fungal load as well, man. People are like wearing these masks for like days. They're breathing warm air into it. They're like sticking them in their pockets and shit like that. You get like aspergillus and shit like growing on it. That shit will fuck you up. Like,
right.
Really.
And I'm not a doctor. I was raised by a family of medical professionals. So, when they tell me something's bullshit, like they did right off the bat with COVID, and half of them quit their job, I thought something was wrong. So I was like, why did everybody say it was bullshit and just tell me to not get the vaccine? So, people who I care about and think are credible, they're like, don't get it. And by the way, it's not what they're telling you it is. So I look at all the doctors and what they're prescribing. Not all of them. If they actually are diagnosed COVID, I'm seeing like azithromycin, zinc, vitamin D, vitamin C, and then I saw a ton of hydroxychloroquine. And they said it wasn't working, but I saw a ton of it.
Dr. Zev Zelenko in New York, he was prescribing it. Simone Gold, Didier Raoult.
Yes. Millions of doctors were prescribing it, and I've seen it thousands of times with my own eyes. So I would assume if I've seen it just alone myself thousands of times, I would say, there's a high chance a lot of doctors were prescribing the Z-Pak and the hydroxychloroquine plus, the anti-malarial. But the other doctors were giving doxycycline, amoxicillin, which are antibacterial drugs. And these people would then develop pneumonia and be on oxygen or ventilators. Those were the people that died. It was never the people that had COVID and got the azithromycin.
No shit. Is azithromycin, is that an antibiotic as well?
Azithromycin, I think, is coupled with hydroxychloroquine and zinc.
Yeah, it's a zinc would act, like if you have a zinc deficiency, which they're saying people on COVID have signs of a vitamin D and a zinc deficiency. So people are pumping them